What's up, y'all? It's Loco, and today we're gonna be talking about Kabuto versus Orange Mask Obito. I have my boy Lightning Snow with me today. Tell him what's up.
What's up, guys? Back for another one.
He actually did a video on Kabuto recently on his channel. It's Orochimaru and Kabuto versus every Akatsuki duo. So if you're interested in another video about our boy Kabuto, go check out his channel. But I think Kabuto is like heavily underrated by the community. A lot of people tend to have a big misconception that like Itachi could have soloed him at any point during their fight, which I don't necessarily have the same interpretation. I feel like Kabuto, Sasuke, and Itachi were all holding back by some extent. Like obviously Sasuke and Itachi couldn't like directly kill Kabuto because he was the caster of the Edo Tensei Jutsu, but at the same time, Kabuto didn't want to kill Sasuke because he wanted to like run tests on him, and he couldn't outright kill Itachi because his only win con against Itachi would be to put like the kunai thing in the back of his head so he could start controlling him once again. So I think everyone was kind of like at a disadvantage in that fight.
I told this to Loco before we started recording. These are two examples of characters that kind of are walking hexes. It's like I know like Itachi and Sasuke quote beat Kabuto, but they literally had to rely on what you could maybe call a cheat code to win.
Well, lucky for Obito, he has like a really good counter to Kabuto, which is Kamui. Like, how would Kabuto be able to bypass the intangibility that Obito is known for? Like, the main thing I bet people will bring up in the comments is like, isn't like Obito prepared to solo Kabuto and the entire Edo Tensei Akatsuki members? And I just think that interpretation is entirely false. You're really downplaying Kabuto and the rest of the Akatsuki there because obviously, you know, a lot of people think like Itachi versus Obito is a very contentious fight, and Itachi was one of the people that Kabuto brought back. So for you to believe that Obito could solo not only Kabuto, but the rest of the Edo Akatsuki, which includes Nagato and Itachi, it's just kind of disingenuous to claim that in the first place, especially when Obito never really said that he would be able to beat any of them in the first place. Like, he never really even puts up any resistance towards Kabuto. The only thing he says is like, what if I refuse to let you help me in this war? That's literally the only thing he says. The rest of the time, he's just asking questions like, what's in it for me? Why do you want to join me in the first place? Like, he's literally just bargaining back and forth with Kabuto, and he's just using these techniques to get a better deal with him. So I really don't think Obito, with only his orange mask, not even the Rinnegan, is capable of taking down Kabuto and the rest of the high tier Akatsuki members, but that's just my interpretation.
I mean, maybe it's more of like it's Kabuto and Itachi plus three other high level ninja. Don't get me wrong, but they can't really do a whole lot against this Obito. So maybe if Obito was talking out of his butt, on the side of like, okay, well, I could still go toe to toe with you, maybe it would be enough to shut Kabuto down. But I'm still on the side of like all five of them plus Kabuto himself would be a little bit too much for Obito to handle. Probably rip him apart for the most part.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, the other four Akatsuki members that were present were not at their full strength, but I think Obito would have a hard time making it past Itachi, let alone the rest of the Akatsuki along with Kabuto, especially because Obito implies that he wasn't going to like fight them right there and then. Like, he says, quarreling with you now would only lower my battle strength. You timed your visit so precisely. What a meticulous planner. Which just implies that he might be planning to use his 100,000 white Zetsu to actually fight Kabuto a little bit later instead of just fighting him right there and then. He also calls Kabuto very formidable. So it's just like you can see that Obito doesn't really want to smoke with Kabuto right there and then, especially because he doesn't even know the extent of Kabuto's powers. Like, he doesn't know Kabuto has access to perfect Sage mode. Like, I'd say the best thing, the most ground you could give Obito is that like he might know about Orochimaru's powers, and he might just assume Kabuto is like on a similar level, which is just blatantly false. We know that Kabuto is stronger than Orochimaru. This has been stated several times. He's just a perfect Snake Sage, which Orochimaru was never able to become, and he stated to surpass Orochimaru entirely several other times throughout the series. So it's like, even if you do think that Obito was planning on defeating Kabuto with no help from the other 100,000 white Zetsu that he possesses, he doesn't even know how strong Kabuto truly is at this point. So I don't think that you would be able to use this encounter alone as enough evidence to say Obito would be able to take him down, like, definitively.
No, I agree. So I mean, at that point, it would really just come down to who can win in a fight against Sage Kabuto and Orange Mask Obito.
And I should have mentioned this earlier, but to make this a little bit more tough for Kabuto, we are not going to let him have any access to his other Edo Tensei. None of them. Not Madara, not Itachi. It is literally just going to be Kabuto by himself going up against Obito. So is his Snake Sage mode really enough to take down quote-unquote Madara himself? But I think we can start getting into the scaling of both of these characters. I guess we can start off with Obito because he's a little bit easier to scale since we don't really know much about him at this point in the series. Obviously, he was able to tangle with the 4th Hokage Minato, which is still an incredibly impressive feat, but me personally, I would make the assertion that Minato's speed doesn't really scale anywhere in terms of his actual travel speed or his physical movement speed. Minato is more so renowned for his FTG, which is his instantaneous teleportation. So I have a whole nother video discussing like where Minato is scale and speed. It's called Naruto versus Minato, so I guess you guys can go check that out after this video, and maybe you could see why I think Minato isn't particularly fast when it comes to like his running speed. So I'd say Obito at this point in time, him scaling to Minato is impressive because Minato is considered to be like greater than that of the Sannin. But at the same time, Minato did kind of bully him pretty badly. So unironically, I believe Obito's best feat throughout the series would be blocking a sword strike from Suigetsu. And a lot of people downplay my boy Suigetsu, but they really don't know that he's built like that. He was actually blocking strikes from the version 1 Raikage during the Kage Summit. In order to save Sasuke, he literally just puts up his blade, stops all of A's momentum in his fist, and kind of just outspeeds him really badly. And for those of you that don't know, version 1 Raikage was kind of beating up KCM1 Naruto really badly before he started going all out and got his mental amp against the Raikage, whatever you think about that. So I'd say Obito would scale to like the KCM1 tiers, quote unquote, with a more generous interpretation. Obviously, since he was able to stop Suigetsu's sword swing, that is a very impressive feat since Suigetsu was able to like match the Raikage's strength. But this is about where Orange Mask Obito would cap off.
But the fact that he was able to like avoid attacks from every single one of the Konoha team that was trying to find Sasuke, like he was just toying around with them, and he still was just not like worried in the slightest. He was avoiding every attack they had. He avoided stacks from like the Raikage. He beat Fu and Torine with like minimal effort. So it's just like one of those things where it's like these two, the fact they're juggernauts in their own respective way. You know, Kabuto is a tank, where Obito is more like the sweeper, like assassin type, you know, get the job done in the lickety split, you know. So this fight it will be all kinds of crazy in my opinion.
Yeah, the main thing about Obito is that a lot of people tend to like confuse like his feats because you really can't scale Obito to like the war arc version of himself after he gets the Rinnegan. A lot of people think that the only thing he got from the Rinnegan were like the obvious abilities, like the hack stuff, like, but he also got a sizable increase in his strength and speed. There's actually a statement from the weekly summaries of the manga which states that Obito, after obtaining the Rinnegan, is growing even closer to perfection, which would just mean that he's obviously stronger than he was before. And on top of this, Obito states that he was unable to implant both of the Rinnegan because of the extremely potent chakra that they possess, and we know that Shinobi amp themselves and their jutsu with their chakra. So Obito with the white mask and with the Rinnegan would just be stronger and faster than Orange Mask Obito. But I'd say a very generous interpretation to Obito would be to scale his speed around the KCM1 level, like early KCM1 and version 1 Raikage. I think we scaled Obito pretty fairly. Like, he is, like Lightning Snow said, a juggernaut in his own right. But I guess we can start moving on to Kabuto here. Obviously, Kabuto's only fight throughout the series was fighting up against EMS Sasuke and Edo Itachi, which he actually performs extremely well against them. He's able to combat them, dodge their attacks on multiple occasions. He even dodges the Susanoo arrow at one point in time. And for those of you that don't know, the Susanoo arrow is extremely fast, possibly even a blitz tier above Sasuke's own physical movement speed, because during the Kage Summit, Danzo was able to kind of swap hands with Sasuke and keep up with him, but he was unable to even dodge the Susanoo arrow or move his hands quick enough to form hand seals and activate Izanagi. So honestly, Kabuto is pretty much faster than both Itachi and Sasuke. This is displayed on multiple occasions. He's dodging Sasuke's Chidori blade thing and ends up on the ceiling. The reason why this is relevant is because as soon as he arrives on the battlefield, EMS Sasuke is just kind of outperforming MKCM Naruto on multiple occasions. Actually, he's having to protect Naruto from Jubito strikes and is having to put up his Susanoo in order to protect him from True Seeker orbs. At the very least, if you really want to downplay EMS Sasuke, he's like at relative to MKCM Naruto, and Kabuto is just some unquantifiable amount above that.
Knowledge is going to play a really handy part in this fight, at least when it comes to Kabuto. Kabuto is known to be like the intel guy anyway, so I think it's reasonable to assume, like maybe through the grapevine, that he's heard of how Toby passes through people whenever people are attacking, because like he knew that this guy wasn't Madara, because he literally had Madara's body, so he knew that Toby was full of crap, and he didn't know who he was, but he obviously knew that Toby was full of crap. So I think it's really reasonable to say that maybe through like, you know, the grapevine, like I said earlier, like maybe Kabuto's heard a bit about how Obito fights, whereas like he passes through people and whatnot. So for the most part, Obito's gonna go into this fight blindsided.
Yeah, I'd actually say Kabuto has a very sizable amount of intel on Obito. The first time that we see this really is whenever Obito uses, like he's trying to force Kabuto to tell him the ins and out of the Edo Tensei jutsu. So Kabuto asks for basically guinea pigs to test out the jutsu on, and Obito has been keeping Fu and Torane in his Kamui dimension for like weeks now. So he uses Kamui to like shoot them out into the real world. Kabuto witnesses him using this space-time ninjutsu, and he's not phased whatsoever. He has like a blank expression on his face, like he doesn't care that Obito just used one of the highest forms of space-time ninjutsu. So it's like you could even argue that he already knows some of Obito's abilities, like he's seen him use Kamui before when he's spying on him. So I definitely say that there's a good chance Kabuto knows a very good amount of Obito's abilities, while Obito knows next to nothing about Kabuto.
Yeah, maybe from the side that he's like I said, he's got snake powers like Orochimaru, and that he's a good medic ninja jutsu user. But other than that, yeah, Kabuto definitely has the edge here as far as keeping Obito on his toes in the fight.
Honestly, I definitely think that Kabuto should have like a higher lifting strength and like striking strength than Obito would at this point in time, specifically due to the benefits that Sage Mode provides.
So like, yeah, Obito's definitely strong in his own right, but like, look, I was saying, like, in my opinion, Sage Mode Naruto's strength in Pit the Pain arc was relative to someone like Tsunade. Like, Tsunade lifted up Gamabunta's freaking sword like it was nothing and closed it on Manda's mouth. And we've never seen Obito do something even remotely close to something like that. So, as far as physical strength, Kabuto, even if you want to put Kabuto's strength the same tier as the Sage Naruto that we saw in the Pain Assault, that still means he's physically stronger than Obito.
So how would Kabuto be able to bypass Kamui? Like we've already established that he should just be stronger and faster than this version of Obito, but how would he get around Kamui is the big question of the day. Well, a lot of Kabuto's abilities and attacks don't really require physical contact, right? Undoubtedly, one of his best attacks is called Sage Art White Extreme Attack, in which he uses sound and light waves to paralyze his opponent. And you could just say, like, why wouldn't Obito be able to Kamui through this? Well, it's actually never shown that Obito is able to like use his phasing ability to become intangible when it comes to things like light waves and sound waves. It's actually stated in the data books that only the Jutsu caster is immune to White Extreme Attack, and we've actually seen how Obito performs against light-based attacks. During the 4th grade Shinobi War, he has to cover his eyes whenever the Cloud Ninja use their blinding attack. Obito was unable to like really do anything about it. It's not like he could phase through those light rays. He just kind of had to cover up his eyes and was blinded for a short period of time. So honestly, I think that this ability would still work on Obito, and he could just become paralyzed. I think that's a very good win con for Kabuto, because EMS Sasuke was unable to keep his Susanoo up after Kabuto used this ability. I know Itachi was able to protect Sasuke from Kabuto when he bum rushed him, but the biggest thing is that like Itachi is an Edo Tensei, and they are heavily implied to not have the same control over their 5 senses as they used to have. Tobirama even outright states that their senses have been dulled. These Edo Tensei don't have the same control over their 5 senses. They can't feel the same things that alive flesh and blood people feel, so it would still work on Obito.
The only thing that I can see Obito being able to do is activate Kamui in order to teleport himself into the Kamui dimension. I will say that I think that's more than likely possible, so he wouldn't be able to react as flawlessly. He might have to just like teleport himself into Kamui as soon as he gets blinded.
I would definitely lean towards White Rage would work on him and would paralyze him, leaving an opening for Kabuto. But once again, it's really what you think.
Like I said, his best chance of avoiding any kind of blitz from Kabuto is to teleport himself into the Kamui dimension. But I mean, if Obito is staying intangible the entire time, then Kabuto would just pass right through him. So I don't know. It's one of those things where like Kabuto has to be really quick to capitalize on something like that.
Yeah, it kind of comes down to whether or not you can think Obito can phase through like subatomic particles, but we spent a lot of time on this one, so we might as well move on to Kabuto's next win con, which would be Taiyuya's flute genjutsu. And honestly, I don't think Obito has any counter for this one. Like, if Kabuto releases this genjutsu, it's kind of just GG's. We saw that EMS Sasuke and Itachi were unable to break out of it on their own and required each other's help with their extremely high tier genjutsu to break out of it. Honestly, just because Taiyu's flute required EMS level or Tsukuyomi level genjutsu to break out of, I don't think Obito's going to be able to do anything on his own. It's just heavily implied that Itachi is one of the best genjutsu users in the entire series, and EMS Sasuke is stated to surpass Itachi in all forms of dojutsu and ninjutsu, so his genjutsu would likely be on the same tier as Itachi's at this point, and they still required each other's help to break out of it. So honestly, this one is just kind of like a GG for Kabuto.
I feel like even if Obito was somehow able to calm himself into the Kamui dimension, even after being caught in the genjutsu, he's still in the genjutsu. Like I don't see a reason why the genjutsu would technically stop, even if he's not like around Kabuto. I'm pretty sure he's still in the genjutsu. So yeah, I agree. I think, and then there's no way to disprove that Obito can't still hear things, even if he makes his whole body intangible. So yeah, I think this is definitely a good win con for Kabuto. We've never really seen Obito combat like auditory genjutsu before, so and we've never even seen him, use auditory genjutsu also. So it's definitely one of those things where, it comes down to the knowledge part. If Obito has no knowledge of Kabuto can do something like this, then yeah, like it will definitely catch Obito off guard.
But what about Izanami? Would that be able to work on Kabuto? Like, we've seen Itachi do this before, and it kind of just ended the entire fight right then and there. Well, I'd actually argue that Obito likely can use Izanami, and he probably has knowledge on it, so I'm not even going to go down that route. Like, it's more than likely that he would have the capability to pull this off and the knowledge on how to do it. I just don't think that he would use it in the first place, because if you guys actually go back and reread or rewatch the fight, the only reason that Itachi used Izanami in the first place is because he was emotionally manipulating Kabuto. Like, he could tell that Kabuto was a distressed person because Kabuto was basically spilling his entire life story to Itachi because he related to him on a very personal level. Like, Itachi was the person that became a nomad and killed his entire clan, and Kabuto never really had an identity to begin with because he was basically like a child spy, like always changing his own identity, becoming someone else just for the sake of his missions. So you literally see Kabuto like in tears throughout part of the fight, like kind of just getting pissed off because he sees his reflection in Itachi. So I don't think Obito would be able to evoke the same reaction and emotions from Kabuto in the first place, so he wouldn't know to use Izanami on Kabuto because he may not even know if it would work in the first place, basically. But what are your thoughts, Lenny?
No, I totally agree. And something that you could say too is that because we've never really seen Obito attempt something like Izanami, like he definitely, I'm fully willing to say he knows what it is and probably knows how to set it up, but usually Obito's win cons are always Kamui, so I don't think he would think, that far ahead. I know that kind of gives a connotation that I think that Obito's dumb. I definitely don't think he is. I just one of those things, like, we've never seen Obito attempt to use Izanami, so I think what he would use that eye for, that extra eye, would definitely be Izanagi, which, I mean, tracing it back, that's probably what he would have to use in order to get out of the flute genjutsu, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I think that either the wide extreme attack or the flute genjutsu would force Obito to use Izanagi. Like, basically what I'm trying to get down to here is that Obito is going to die at least once in this fight, regardless of what you think, because Kabuto has very valid win cons. So he is going to be forced to use Izanagi. Like, I guess moving on to our next point would be like an Izanagi sneak attack, kind of like what Obito did to Konan during their fight. But honestly, I don't believe this would work on Kabuto. We've already seen how sensory ninjas perform against Izanagi users. Whenever Danzo was fighting against Sasuke at the Tenchi Bridge, I believe it's called, Karin was constantly relaying his position to Sasuke at all times because she was able to sense where he respawned at. And we know that Kabuto is not only a perfect sage, but he's also a sensory ninja. He knew Anko was hiding outside of Obito's base because he was able to sense her from miles away. So not only is he just like a pretty good sage, like he's one of the best sages we've seen so far up this point in the series, but he's also like a really good sensory ninja as well. So even if he were to leave sage mode, which is something that he probably wouldn't do, but like let's say he becomes overconfident and just leaves sage mode after killing Obito, he would still be able to sense his respawn with Izanagi, so he wouldn't be able to get off guarded.
Even more so to the point where Naruto and KCM in the war arc, this was when he wasn't even in sage mode, was still able to sense. Well, I wasn't able to. I don't know if he was able to sense, but he like closed his eyes for a split second, then he saw Obito like appear right below him. So, and he was still able to react in time. So I feel as though Kabuto, who has his sage mode on, I don't see a reason for him to just turn sage mode off when he's fighting this guy. I should more or less be able to do the same. Like as soon as he sees Izanagi, the best case for Obito in this is to suck him up with Kamui, but I like I said, he's able to sense people coming in like miles away. So I don't know if I can give Obito that sneak attack the same way he did with Konan. Like Konan does nothing as far as sensory, at least not what we've seen. So that was really the only reason he was able to get that stab on her.
And honestly, I believe that Kabuto is probably one of the best sage mode users we've ever seen. I believe that the only reason he wasn't using it up until this point was to conceal his power from Obito and the rest of the Akatsuki members. So really, I think that we actually see Kabuto stay in sage mode throughout his entire time in Izanami, and when he shows up to the War Arc battlefield to save Sasuke's life, he's just always in the sage mode. Like he never leaves. Like once he goes into the form, he's always having an infinitely refilling supply of nature energy. So I see no point in him like leaving it in the first place or ever running out of his senjutsu abilities, basically. So really, I definitely think that Izanagi's sneak isn't going to be enough to take down Kabuto.
Our best case in Obito's favor is that it just keeps him alive a little longer. And this, to me, this is where I get into like where I was telling Loco, like you can ask Loco. I spent a long time on my conclusion of the fight because I think it's against Titans essentially. I am on the 50-50 just because I told Loco I don't think Obito can kill Kabuto, but at the same time I also don't think Kabuto can kill Obito. I feel weird if I said that Obito can actually die when it comes to this kind of stuff, just because he's able to survive, even in Orange Mask, he's able to survive like so many weird and tough situations. So, but what I did tell Loco though is that if I had to give this win rate to somebody, I probably would go Kabuto like 6 out of 10, mainly due to the knowledge part, because again, Obito's going to be going in blindsided, so Obito's not going to be aware of a lot. What's going like the fluke genjutsu, like we said, the wide stream attack, even Kimimara's kick Genkai, like Kabuto has that, so he's definitely not going to be expecting that Kabuto has something like that, which is definitely going to be a huge help. So I do think that Kabuto has so much hacks to him that Obito can't get past, but at the same time, given how quick in reaction time Obito can be and how much of a problem Kamui has always been, I can't really see Kabuto more than often than not getting the kill on Obito either. So for me, I know I'm going off the rails here, but for me it ends inconclusively, but if I gave it to somebody, it definitely would be Kabuto because of the knowledge part.
Yeah, like you said, we've been through all of Obito's abilities so far except for Kamui, and they haven't really done anything to Kabuto so far. Like, the only other things Obito has is like, what, Fireball Jutsu and Wood Release, and we've already seen how skilled Kabuto is at Water Release. He's able to drown out EMS Sasuke's Fireball Jutsu, and of course, as I've already mentioned, EMS Sasuke should have greater ninjutsu and dojutsu than Itachi, who is already one of the greatest Fireball, or Fire Release users in the Uchiha clan. So, also, like, even when it comes to Wood Release, we don't really know how strong or fast Obito's wood style is because he never uses it really until the war arc or without help from Zetsu. But even then, Kabuto could just liquefy using Suigetsu's abilities and evade the attack entirely.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to Kamui, I definitely believe that Kabuto has counters to getting pulled in or sucked in into the Kamui dimension. Like like Lightning Snow already mentioned, he does have Kimimaru's ability to just shoot bones out of his body. So whenever Obito tries to close the distance and put his hands on Kabuto to try to pull him into the dimension, he can just stab him with Kimimaru's bones, or he could just use Sage Art, Inorganic Animation, or Muko Tensei to change the environment of the battlefield in order to just stab Obito, or just force him to stop pulling Kabuto in and phase through the attack. Or he could just blatantly just use the chakra scalpels. As I've already highlighted, I do believe Kabuto is physically faster than Obito, so he could just use those chakra hand scalpel things to slice through Obito whenever he becomes tangible. So I definitely think Kabuto has 3 very solid counters to Kamui, if not more, that I just haven't mentioned yet.
Like, if he's able to survive any of these attacks, I feel like Obito would probably be on the defensive more in the fight, more so than anything. So, I'm gonna keep up with the 50-50, but with Sage Kabuto winning, 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I definitely think the main reason why Kabuto would win this fight is specifically because he has very good counters to Obito's abilities, which at that point in time you could say, like, once Obito realizes that he can't really do anything to Kabuto, he can't close the distance, he's already had to use Izanagi once because of Taiyu's Fluid or White Extreme Attack, then he might just be like, oh shit, this guy's too strong, I gotta retreat and regroup, maybe I can attack him with some of my White Zetsu later on. But I definitely think Kabuto would win in a straight up fight if Obito is like unable to run away or whatever, specifically because he's just stronger and faster than Obito, has more win cons, and has counters to Obito's win cons. So I definitely think Kabuto would be able to take this one with relative ease, but I can see how you'd say it's inconclusive. Obito's intangibility is a very big hurdle for Kabuto to overcome, but I definitely feel like he has the skill set available to him to take down Obito. So I'm fine with all of you guys just like being in the middle about it, but I definitely think that the arguments for Kabuto are present.
Yeah, and don't mistake me, guys. Like, I'm not, like, for me, I love Obito, so the fact that I said that Kabuto could at least beat him, like, and could take it like 6 out of 10, for me, I think that's saying something in my opinion. Like, I don't want to sleep on Kabuto, like, at all. I told Obito is a walking hacks, like a walking cheat code in the entire series. So that's just where my headspace is at about it. But like I said, I'm 50-50 for the most part, but I can definitely see Kabuto winning it more often than not.
Well, definitely let us know what you guys think down in the comments. I'd be more than happy to talk about White Mask Obito versus Kabuto, like in another follow-up video with my boy Lightning Snow. Maybe we can even add in the Edo Tensei and the Jinchuriki that Obito has access to in the Ghetto Mazo and everything like that. I'd be more than willing to do a part 2 on it, but that's up to you guys entirely, so let us know if you'd be interested in that. But I appreciate you for coming on, bro.
Not a problem. Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun to do.
If you haven't seen Lightning Snow's channel already, be sure to check him out. He has a lot of cool videos on there, like we've already mentioned. He's talked about Kabuto several times, even once in his newest video. But yeah, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. But other than that, I'm gonna catch y'all later. Peace.